ESPN Classic Chicago Roadshow presented by Miller High Life. Now, under the stands at Wrigley Field, you'll find the rain room, where the Cubs head groundskeeper monitors the weather during a game. And I tell you what, you could monitor the conditions today, because they do change frequently here by the lake. Best summertime city in all the land. We welcome you back here outside Wrigleyville, just across the street from Murph's. We got the best seating in the world. I tell you, the best seat in the world. And folks, our next guest was the leader of the 1969 Cubs, the voice of the Cubs for 14 years on the radio. I don't have to say anything else. It's Ron Santo, folks. It's Ron Santo. The people are fired up to have him with us.
Consummate third base, consummate leader.
He stood out as the undeclared captain of the Cubs. Ron got big hits when they were needed. He made the big play.
He ought to be in the Hall of Fame. It's a shame he's not.
The man was a 9-time All-Star, one of the finest third basemen certainly ever to wear the Chicago Cubs uniform from 1960 to 73. Over 2,100 games at third base, 337 bombs for the Cubbies, a 5-time Gold Glove winner. Ron, it's great to have you with us this afternoon. We appreciate you being here, and clearly folks are excited to see you as well. And earlier at the top of our show, I mentioned that clearly the big story this week in Chicago and throughout the baseball world was Sammy and the bat that was corked. I want to get your perspective, because you've been following him since he's been here as well. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, Scott, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
My buddy right here, Rick. To me, it was an isolated incident. I really believe that. He admitted he was wrong, and they should let things go. There was just too much hoopla, in my opinion. I've been with the man for 10 years. There's nobody has better work ethic than him. Nobody. Every day he's ready to play the game of baseball, and I just think it happened, and that's it. I believe he never has used a cork bat. I really believe that.
Ronnie, I totally agree with you, because you and I both know if a guy knew he had a cork bat in his hand and he broke the bat, he wouldn't have laid down the handle, first of all. Second of all, after he got to first base, he would have come back and started picking things up. He didn't do that. I mean, I understand why Sammy would have one for batting practice. You and I have both seen him when he goes on the road. And I saw him in Kansas City last year. There were more people there to watch his batting practice than any other game during the course of the Royal season last year. He's expected to put on a show where, Scotty, a lot of superstars don't even take BP every day. Sammy Sosa has to, and that takes a lot of energy out of a guy, but he always seems to find a way to perform. And you know what? If he's going to use a bat for something like that, that's fine. He knows he made a mistake. He's going to pay his price with the suspension. Turn the page.
I tell you, you see that the love here is certainly out in the bleachers in right field. When Sammy came running out and gave him the love, they gave it right back. And we want to get to a topic that's near and dear, maybe not near and dear to your heart, but I want to talk to you about 69 and what happened then, your memories of 69, and maybe how these boys here in 84 helped sort of exercise those demons. Is that accurate to say?
Well, that's very accurate, but when they didn't win, you know, that really got me, but I thought that was going to be the year definitely to get rid of all those demons, because they won 2 games here in Chicago, and then they went on to San Diego and lost that first game, and I heard, was supposed to pitch that game on Saturday, and Fry decided to go with Sanderson.
Yeah. I got to ask you something, though. I'm warming up in early September at Shea Stadium, and Billy Connors is our pitching coach. Johnny Oates was our bullpen catcher, and from the third deck, somebody threw a black cat at me. And I came from Cleveland, from the Dodgers. I did not know the history. The cat landed on the ground. It ran off. After the game, we won. I get hugged by everybody, and Billy Connors saying, that cat didn't bother you. What happened with that cat?
Well, I was on deck circle in New York in 69, and all of a sudden I saw this cat start out of the corner of my eye, came right around me. I had my bat on my shoulder. He went right around me and then went right to the dugout and looked right at Leo, and then went underneath the stand. So that was it. But there was a lot of funny things happening that year, and the only thing I could say about that is God lived in New York that year. There's no doubt about it.
Before we let you go, in 10 seconds or less, let me ask you a quick question. With a win like that yesterday sort of making people start to believe, do you think this is a year maybe like 84 for this team?
Well, I definitely do. I think this is definitely our year. I really mean it. We've got the ball club to do it. If we stay healthy, we're going to be right there. Absolutely. Yesterday was the most excitement, electricity that I've ever been around in a Cub uniform or as a broadcaster.
It was certainly a playoff atmosphere. Hopefully for the Cub fans, they'll have more of that. Ron, good health to you, and enjoy the summer. Great to have you with us.
Brother. Hall of Fame.
All righty, don't move, because the ESPN Classic Chicago Roadshow continues, presented to you by Miller High Life. Hey, when we come back, it's Harry Carey, everybody. He is still a beloved figure. We'll talk Harry next from Wrigleyville. ESPN Classic Chicago Roadshow, presented by Miller High Life. Well, they call them simply the friendly confines. Ernie Banks is credited with coming up with the term, and it's a perfect description for Wrigley Field. We are just outside the corner of Wrigley and Sheffield. Across the street from Murphy's, folks getting set for baseball. Coming up at 8 o'clock on ESPN Baseball tonight, 7 Eastern. They're inside Wrigley, and hopefully they're under a tarp just like we are. And I could talk a whole lot about a bunch of nonsense, but really, who cares? The man is the most beloved Chicago Cub ever to put on a uniform, Mr. Cub. It's Ernie Banks. Let's welcome Ernie Banks back to Chicago right now.
Roses are red, violets are blue. It's a beautiful day. Let's play two.
He always seemed like he was saying, I'm lucky to be doing this. And people were pleased about it.
What made fans love him so much was his pure joy of playing. The old expression, let's play two, was real in his case. And that's why Chicago fans were so attached to him.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Life is great. Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks, sitting down to join us here. Played with the Cubs from 53 to 71. He's a Hall of Famer, a two-time MVP. Ernie Banks played over 2,500 games. That's the most ever for the Cubs. Inducted into the Hall in 77. A 14-time All-Star. Hey, it wasn't enough games, but they still love you here. It's great to have you with us, Ernie. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Scott. Good seeing you.
He's loved all over the
world. Good to see you. Thank you very much.
I want to reach over here and get a copy of the Cubs media guide. As we take a look at it here, we've got a picture of it's inside Wrigley. It's Ernie. It's Sammy. And this week, obviously, Ernie has been a difficult one for Sammy, given the situation with the bat. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, when he ran out to right field, the fans clearly, nothing's changed in terms of how they feel about him. I'm curious how you feel about Sammy after what happened.
Oh, I love Sammy. He's just a wonderful human being. I just love being around him. I learned a lot from him. And that one thing, Rick and Scott, is he gives everything he has to the game. And I just love that ability.
And he says that he learned a lot from you, too.
He did?
Oh, yeah.
He did?
Yeah, just as far as that smile and energy.
No, that's the truth.
He just look at that. Just everything he has is into it. Just beautiful. He knows it's gone.
As great a player as you were, when you see a swing like that, do you even admire it?
Yeah, I do admire it. I wish I had a swing like that. But
Ernie, I want to ask you something. Both of you guys with over 500 home runs throughout your career, it's so much different now to get to. It used to be 500, instant Hall of Fame. That number may have to go up a little bit, huh, with the changes in baseball.
It certainly will go up, I think, too. Because 500 home runs, you got to play a lot of games. You have a lot of enthusiasm. You got to be on the right team, the right park. There it is, right there. Wow!
Hey!
Wow!
Does it ever get old to see that moment? I bet it does. I bet it doesn't.
That's the only moment I'll remember. Most people are going to remember when I'm not here any longer. But it was just a wonderful thrill to do that, especially at Wrigley Field, from the fans who followed my career.
What about all of the changes? I mean, they've lowered the mound now to help the hitters. They've never moved the fence back.
Listen
They've
to
always
the pitcher talk.
moved it in. You saw the baskets that they've added here. I mean, the fans want more offense, don't they? And that's the reason for these changes.
Yes, it is. You're right. I think two things. What we saw yesterday, which I enjoyed the game. I mean, home runs and strikeouts are very important to the game of baseball. And when you see that here at Wrigley Field, Scott, it's just a wonderful thing to see so many strikeouts, a close game like that, and a home run by the opposing team and a home run by the Cubs. It just was a wonderful game. I really enjoyed it. Did you all see the enthusiasm that the fans showed.
I didn't have a ticket. I was wandering around the outside, but I tell you what, when Eric Karros hit that home run, I heard it, and it was an amazing moment. I heard Ron Santo was inside, said the enthusiasm was almost like it was a playoff game. It seemed like it felt that way.
Well, what about when Roger went out of the game? This is what that really touched my heart, Rick, when he went out of the game, and everybody gave him a standing ovation. I mean, it shows the class of the Chicago fans. Yeah, they just have a great interest and love for people who respond to great athletic accomplishments.
They know the game of baseball, don't they?
That's right. They really do. I was sitting with a lady, and I hadn't seen this in a while. She was keeping score of the game, and when I first came to Wrigley Field, that's what everybody did. They had a scorecard. They kept the lineup. They kept all the scores, and they were really in the game. It's like going to a school, and I really enjoyed that with the fans here.
I want to get your perspective on the same thing I asked Ron Santo earlier. A win like yesterday, you talked about the enthusiasm and the energy and the excitement. It was a remarkable day here. Does it make you start believing, maybe I can even say hoping, that this is a summer kind of like '84 when the Cubs go to the playoffs?
You got it.
Do you think it might be?
Yeah, it's a feeling that you get. And Rick was there in '84. I mean, it is a feeling. I mean, it's a little different now because I think a lot of Dusty. Rick knows him better than I did. I mean, Dusty had that positive view of his life, of players'
he expects to win, doesn't he?
That's right. He
doesn't hope to win. He expects to win.
He really, I don't know if that well like you do. He expects to win. And the other day when we got beat on Friday, I mean, Dusty was like figuring out, I mean, hey, God almighty, how did we let him get away? Rivera was coming relief pitcher. Yeah. He expects to win. I have never been around a person like that.
Ernie Banks, a Hall of Famer, but I think probably just as proud to be known forever as Mr. Cub. It's wonderful to have you come by and visit with us. It means so much to us. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you too, Rick.
We're going to say so long to Ernie, and in a moment we're going to welcome in another Cub, an MVP, Andre Dawson. God bless the good people of Chicago out in the rain in Wrigleyville. Cubs and Yankees, they're playing at 8 Eastern on ESPN. The Road Show continues on Classic right after this.